Today, we're going to have our hands full because we're going to be walking through Palantir, their earnings, and what they actually do. Everybody knows they have something to do with data analytics and something to do with AI. And if you have those two things, then you're probably worth hundreds of billions of dollars in this economy. But aside from the obvious stuff, we'll walk through how this guy right here, the CEO of Palantir, solved such an invaluable problem. Does that justify this massive price spike that we just saw and this performance over the past 5 years? Also good to note that they are, in fact, the best performer on the S&P 500. I'm not sure that's too big of a surprise, but something to mention. To start out, let's just look at some of their customers and get a feel for what the ideal customer is. What do they look like? Is there a theme that's consistent across all these different companies? And this is not a fully inclusive list, by the way. There are many, many others. But you can see quite the wide range of stuff going on here. We got a computer company, airplanes, we got banks, we have a fake meat company down here. So what in the world is going on? And you know what? I want to use Wendy's as an example because immediately I thought, why in the hell is Wendy's a customer of Palantir? And no, this is no joke. This is the official article right here. We'll get to all this, but I thought Wendy's would be a great example to show just how diverse and widespread this problem that Palantir solves actually is. I want to get this out of the way right now before we get into this. If McDonald's was a customer of Palantir, we probably wouldn't have to worry about the McFlurry and the ice cream machine always being out of service. Okay, that's it. That's it from that. All right, financials, real quick. I'm no expert, so we're going to play this clip and then talk a little bit about what he says and simplify it.
Now, if I compare that to our basket of high growth software companies, in our universe, they are trading at 6x that basket, which is at 12 to 13 times. In fact, Palantir, if I were to compare them to the next highest multiple stock, which is Cloudflare, Palantir is trading at a 3x premium to that company. So we love a Palantir.
So in other words, Palantir is literally in a league of its own. And we're going to get to why this valuation is so absurd and maybe warranted, but you can clearly hear and see that it's up there.
Specifically, the best-in-class software companies. What Palantir just did this past quarter is over 90. Now, if I were to compare that to the rest of the software space, and this is specifically the best-in-class software companies, Palantir's rule of 90 plus is roughly 2x anybody else.
All right, so let's talk about this one. The rule of 40. This rule of 40 that we just saw mentioned in this clip is really a formula not only do CEOs use to brag about how their software company is doing and growing, but also investors use to see, hey, I know this stock is expensive, but am I getting what I'm paying for? And you can see it's the growth rate. This was 50%, I believe, something like that. And their profit margin was somewhere around 40, let's say. Not exact numbers, but doesn't really matter. You get the point. So they're actually so far above this rule of 40 that they're in a league of their own. And this is compared to some of the best in-class software enterprise companies. And so real quick, again, I'm not a finance guy. I'm not going to walk through this spreadsheet. Someone else could do that far better than I ever could. But what we will do is look at the current PE ratio of Palantir just to give perspective on what people are willing to pay for that stock right now. So this diluted EPS, this is the number we want, 0.13. We're going to come over here and calculate PE. So PE ratio, simply put, if I can do it as an engineer, you can do it too. We have the last year's EPS. They call it the trailing 12 months PE. The last year's EPS, so we're going to do 0.08 plus 0.03, 0.11, 0.06, 0.17. We add the EPS from this quarter, 0.13. We get 0.3. We take Palantir's current price per share, 173, let's say, divided by 0.3. You got yourself a PE of about 577. Yes, it's very, very high. You're currently willing to pay $577 for every $1 that Palantir makes in earnings. Nice. But is that warranted? Let's go over to the earnings presentation because there's some really simple charts that I love on there. And we can get a better feel for what kind of growth that they're going through right now. Their UI is just so clean too. All right, here we go. We were just talking about that rule of 40, right? You can clearly see here they are way out here in a league of their own. And what's even crazier is they do this comparison to the top 25 companies globally. And you can see, I mean, Nvidia's up here, obviously the best performing stock of all time, and Palantir right behind them. Crazy stuff. I think another thing to note too is this distribution of commercial and government contracts. Government contracts are usually a really good sign for a company because these things can be inked for the next 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, these contracts can literally span decades of work and billions of dollars. I actually work in the defense industry, and you see in some of these presentations contract dates that go out to 2065. Right? So a great sign for a company. That's some reliable growth. And then the commercial growth absolutely blowing up. Like your Wendy's, McDonald's, if you're watching, you got to invest in some Palantir to fix your dumb ice cream machine. Last chart, I promise, then we can get into the cool stuff. But just think about this. How crazy is it? They gained nearly 200 additional companies just in the United States over the past year. Why is that? What problem does Palantir actually solve? We know it's data analytics or AI related and that justifies it too. No, what's the fundamental problem that they solve and why is it so important? Let's answer that question. What is the problem that they solve at a very high level? And why is everybody scrambling to become a customer, including Wendy's? Wendy's, 4 for $4. They sell burgers and fries. Why are they a customer of some data analytics and AI company? Well, we're going to quickly walk through this Reddit post because I don't use Reddit too often, but this might be one of the best posts in terms of simplifying a complex problem that I've seen. All right, so let's imagine a world. Let's say you're working at some big tech company. Let's go with Smoogle. At Smoogle, you have these individual product teams that almost work in these silos. One team is handling front-end interaction between the user, let's say your mom, she's using Smoogle to search for new clothes. You also have customer support that's dealing with angry mothers calling about their clothes that they found on Smoogle. And you have back-end developers, the guys who are actually putting together the code to make these online services work. So all of these different silos produce a lot of data. One is capturing all sorts of customer interactions between your mom and the interface. One silo is capturing all sorts of reviews and what's hot right now, what kinds of things are performing well. And then the back end is generating speed reports, memory reports. Now, all of this data is, as we said, siloed. I like how Incited puts it, software Frankenstein, essentially stitching a ton of data together. It's inefficient, obviously, right? Well, what Palantir does is creates this single operating system. Think combining all those silos that we just talked about into one coherent landscape. And when you have all of this data in one location, you can really start to look, how are these variables affecting others? And eventually drive higher level business decisions. And now you're gonna hear this term ontology, and what does that mean? Well, it's really being aware of things that exist and how those things that exist actually interact and exist together, coexist. There's definitely some simple examples that you could think of, like a higher click-through rate will generally lead to a higher amount of sales, right? The more people you can get to click on your product or service, the more potential you have to actually make a sale of that product or service. But there's a lot of complicated things, especially across these multifaceted mega cap tech companies, right? You could imagine the case of Apple, Google, Meta. They have so many things to worry about at the same time. And how would one human be able to connect the dots between what's the most optimal decision to make at that moment? There's hundreds and thousands of little things that interact all together. And well, why don't we use AI and data analytics, look at those buzzwords coming back, to understand and analyze the ontology of a business? All right, so this example here is pretty crazy. They're looking at a situation where China is sending out a destroyer to essentially check out what seems to be a Taiwanese blockade on the sea to prevent the flow of trade. And it looks like things are about to go down. It looks like the Chinese destroyer, as the name might infer, is about to do some serious damage. And obviously with China potentially attacking Taiwan, that could cause some serious issues and geopolitical tension, especially involving the United States. So let's look at what just happens here. It's incredible.
So as the team watches closely with partner nations, a new alert comes in from Japanese intelligence. The Chinese Luoyang destroyer has gone dark, and isn't showing up on intelligence feeds.
All right, so there goes the destroyer, and now they're saying, okay, how can we find this destroyer? So we have this satellite imagery that identifies, hey, look at this ship is usually here. It's not right now, so where is it? Let's find it. They eventually find it, and they indicate that, look at this, they have these machine-learned decisions that are provided by the program. So they find that this ship is on the course, the highest risk course to this Taiwanese blockade, potentially to break it up, potentially to cause some mayhem. We don't know, but what we do know is there's a risk. And to avert that risk, they provide these options. And upon submitting the task order, it notifies those stakeholders, those people involved, immediately. I mean, how integrated this system is from first identifying that a ship is missing in real time, a destroyer, and potentially taking the highest risk path to what seems like an intentional blockade by the Taiwanese on Chinese trade. And then not only that, but identifying the best course of action and being able to notify all the stake. I think you can see just how integrated this system is and how creating one cohesive environment of all this stuff is, let's say, overpowered.
Joint forces decide to task an American ship. Once the choice is selected, a task order is...
Don't you kind of feel like you're in like MW2 Spec Ops mission watching this too? I don't know if it's only me, but...
submitted, and the American ship quickly alters course. The team watches closely as the operation progresses, and as the American ship approaches, the fishing vessel blockade begins to disband,
Resolution.
and the Liu Yang continues north without incident.
I mean, this stuff, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And if we quickly run over to their website, the amount of offerings that they have is pretty much all-inclusive of any industry that you could possibly think of, right? Because this ontology can be created anywhere. You just need to integrate all this data together in one operating system, as they call it. We need to get into this right here. Remember at the beginning of the video, we talked about Wendy's. Why in the world is Wendy's a customer of Palantir? Well, I think now, because we walk through these examples, we walk through just how many offerings they have, the amount of industries that they cover, I think you can see where we're going with this. We're going to talk about, or listen to an executive talk about, just how much time and efficiency has been created with the Palantir service through supply chain digitalization. Let's take a look real quick. So similar to that defense example, integrating all these variables together in one environment, so that way, you can first become aware of something, then identify what's related to that something, and then take action on that something. Let's apply that to Wendy's here. Their supply chain is very complex. As you can see here, we have about 60 partners that all produce their own silos of data. Over 6,000 restaurants, 34 distribution centers, and Palantir combines this all into one system. I'll spare you the details of the video, but it's concerning a Thin Mints Frosty. I guess I didn't even know they had that. Sounds pretty good. They're going to run out of supply of this Thin Mints Frosty. Palantir system identifies there's a need to order raw materials, or there'll be short inventory, and there will be a lot of little girls that are sad ordering that shake. When to order the raw materials so they can actually get it to the restaurant before they run out. When you need to get into production to have time to actually send it to the distribution centers. And then when it needs to leave the associated distribution centers to eventually get to the restaurant. I think you get the point. And let's just look at what this executive has to say.
A year ago, that would have taken us 15 people all day, calling distribution centers, manufacturing points, checking with individual restaurants to make sure they were okay or not okay. It would have taken us all day. And then the beauty of it is we would have come in the next day and done the exact same thing. The exact same thing again. And the frustrating part of that is, as people do
this is the key point too, right here, key point.
Work, it's maddening because you don't have enough information at your fingertips to actually make the right decision.
Yes, what did we just talk about? We talked about how all these variables, yes, you can call up all these various distribution centers. You can call up your 60 partners all producing different data. You can coordinate with drivers and it doesn't matter. It's too difficult to connect the dots of all these different silos at the same time. What they demonstrated is they could complete all what he just said, taking 15 people, taking all day, every single day. It takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So where do we stand today and what are the takeaways? Well, data is the currency of the world. We all know that at this point. And Palantir being that all-encompassing, that all-in-one operating system, the consolidation of all that data under one systematic hood, well, that certainly drives efficiency and saves a lot of time. That could be looked at in a negative light too, right? You heard the Wendy's executive talking about how it took 15 people all day, every single day, to solve those problems that are now done in 5 minutes with the click of a button. That's problematic because a lot of jobs are at stake because of this kind of technology. But all in all, it's still incredible technology nonetheless. And this part's subjective, but they probably do deserve their crazy multiple, at least for now, while they're growing at this ridiculous speed. But eventually it's really a matter of time until things catch up, and then who knows, unless they keep growing at this ridiculous rate and stay in their own club, the rule of 90 club, as they said, right? It also seems like they're one of the only AI software companies that have learned how to monetize their AI software. Most are burning a lot of money at this point, and Palantir clearly has a leg up in the game. We can see they basically serve every industry you could possibly think of, including our good friends at Wendy's. And final takeaway, if Wendy's is a customer, they're gonna start blowing McDonald's out of the water. McDonald's is late to the party, but if they can get their Palantir software integration up and running, probably be able to get that McFlurry you've been hoping for. So I hope this helped, and I know it was a lot of information. I hope the flow of the video was simple and made sense. I apologize if there was some divergence here and there because there's just a lot to talk about here, and simplifying it's tough. But I'll tell you, watching that Gotham video, that got the blood pumping. I felt like I was in, I think I said it, but I felt like I was in like an MW2 Spec Ops mission or something during that. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's worth the price at this point? I personally don't know if I'd ever be able to buy it at these levels. One last thing too, that Reddit user I was sourcing for some of this information, they released that article back here. That wasn't recent. That was them doing a deep dive into Palantir when it was less than 10 a share. I did at one point have Palantir around $7 a share. My timing was very lucky, right around here, I believe. But I think I sold around like 26 or 30 because I just thought the valuation was getting out of whack, and I wasn't sure how quickly or how long they could hold this acceleration of their acceleration of revenue and customers. I don't know if I had the cojones to get back in at this level. So let me know what you guys think, and let me know if there's any other companies that you want this style of presentation or this kind of flow, because I definitely enjoyed doing this, and you certainly learn a lot, and I hope I did my best consolidating all that information into a learnable and more enjoyable format than your average YouTube video. So that's it for me. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll be really happy if you do. Look at that happy guy right there. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.